Okay, good evening and welcome. This is the June 24th, 2025 meeting of the school committee. Call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock. This meeting is being both audio and video recorded this evening. I would ask that everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call please. Samantha, if you would start.
Samantha Velasquez, Secretary.
Sarah Trulio.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Gregory Thompson.
Antonella Rochella. Amy Delenta.
Heather Brown, Director of Curriculum.
Okay, we have committee and subcommittee communications. Many of us were here last night. Anything, Sarah, tonight? Okay, thank you very much. We have an opportunity for visitors to address the committee. If anyone would like to do so, now's the time. Yes, please, come on up, please. Hi. You can have a seat right here. See that little mic on the table?
Yeah.
If you want to sit and face that so that everybody can hear. Thank you.
So this is a letter my teacher had me write to the school committee. My name is Ava Brooks. I'm 10 years old and a 4th grader at Mountain View Elementary School. I'm writing this letter because some really great teachers are not going to be back next year. To start, Miss Sophia is a great art teacher. She runs crochet club and teaches kids how to do so many different things in art class. Why is she being taken away? We deserve our own art teacher. I love art class and so do the other students at this school. Miss Emmett, where to start? She ran drama club, math and ELA GT, gifted and talented, for 4th and 5th grade. She has the biggest personality, and if she got replaced, whoever filled in would not be like Miss Emmett. Also, we're going to do Lego robotics next year in 5th grade, but we can't do that anymore because she's leaving and the whole enrichment program is getting cut. On top of it, another teacher is leaving, Miss McNulty. Mrs. McNulty is a great 5th grade teacher. I feel like that since the teachers are leaving, it makes me feel bad because you cut the programs because you think that we don't care about this, but we do. We love all these programs and teachers, and your opinion of what kids care and not care about is just wrong. I love and care about these programs and teachers, so what you're doing is not making them sad, but the whole school. Anytime one of these 3 teachers comes into a room, everyone lights up and is excited to see them because they are great teachers. The thing they do for us students is just incredible. Miss Sophia taught me if I touch up my work and say it is and say it's good, I'll believe that it's good. I never really knew Miss McNulty, but I can just tell she's a great teacher. These teachers have influenced me so much, and they've done the same with about 350 other students. And it's not just me who feels this way, it's the whole school. Everyone loves them from the bottom of their hearts, and if you think it's just impacting Miss McNulty, Miss Sophia, and Miss Emmett, that's a mistake, because they are loved by everyone in the school, students and staff. All I know is that these teachers came to Mountain View because they loved it here, and they never wanted to leave. These teachers knew who they wanted to be the minute they walked into the school. They wanted to be the great teachers that they are today. Even though that you're making them leave, they will always be in our hearts, and they will always have a place here, whether they work here or not. Now that I know this is happening, I know how to take care of what's going on, to make my voice heard. Teachers get taken for granted most of the time, and they work hard to be who they are today. For us, their students. What do you think teachers do all day? I'm with them every day, so I know, I know who they are and what they do for us. I can tell you that they're not what you think. They keep the day exciting and fun so we don't get tired and we feel motivated. Teachers help me so much, and some of the teachers that influence me are going to be leaving. Some people think that teachers' voices don't matter, and that's terribly wrong because they don't just do what they're told. They take the creative road on their teaching journey and make the world their own, not what people say the world is. Teachers matter to me, and taking them away would ruin education for not just me, but the whole school. Miss Emmett and Miss Sophia taught enrichment and art to the whole school, and the whole school will miss them. All these teachers did not teach themselves how to be amazing teachers. They had teachers. Even though you made the decision to get rid of them, you left the students in the dark. You never planned on telling us. They told us. You left us in the dark, and nobody knew how to act. Do you care that me and what the whole school want? We have feelings. What are you going to take away next? Gym, library, you're ignoring how we feel. Open your eyes, see what's in front of you. This is hurting too many people. Do you care that you hurt us? Sincerely, Ava Brooks.
Well, Ava, I want to thank you. It's very important that you come and speak to us as a student and as someone that this affects. I want you to know that we look at all these things with the same kind of eye and as personal as you do. And each teacher brings something special every day, and we believe that, and they work hard for every student. And it unfortunately sometimes comes down to money, and there's just being able to afford all the teachers, and that's why we had to make a difficult decision this year. It was probably one of the biggest year cuts that we've had to make in a very long time. And those cuts are never easy, but to hear your input on what things are important to you is important to us. So thank you for bringing those things forward to us. You are so well spoken. So clearly your family is doing something right, but also the education system is doing right to put something together so well and well spoken. We certainly appreciate you coming tonight. So
Thank you.
Thank you. That was very brave of you to do that. Very thoughtful letter.
Great job.
thank you, Ava. Appreciate it. Okay, anyone else this evening would like to make a comment? Okay, then we will move forward with some exciting news. Mr. Smith, if you'd like to
We do.
take the mic, please.
Back in May 1st, when we had our awards and scholarship night, unfortunately, we did not have information that we now do have, and we have Nathan LaFlamme here, who's a recent graduate of ELHS. Nathan, I just messed up your certificate here. We also have Colonel Wright here from the U.S. Army. And what we would like to do is recognize Nathan for the scholarship that Colonel Wright is about to present to him. Please,
All
Colonel.
right, so just real quick. So real quick, yeah, unfortunately the timing didn't work out. We didn't find out about this until after your guys' award ceremony, so it's kind of typical, welcome to the Army. But adapt and overcome, right? So every year the Army gives away 2,000 national high school scholarships to high school seniors. They give away 1,000 four-year scholarships and 1,000 three-year scholarships. So on average, about 20 to 25-ish thousand students compete for these scholarships nationwide and give away 2,000 of them. So Nathan, he came in and he interviewed with me up at UMass. I'm with the UMass Army ROTC program. He came up and interviewed with me with his mom, lots of questions, exceptional student. I mean, I see a lot of you guys come through. I do a lot of interviews with you guys, and some of them are you, and some of them are not you. So you've earned this. So Nathan will be going to WPI. He got a what we call a three-year advanced designee scholarship, meaning he's on the hook for the first year of school, still has to do the ROTC program, and then the Army picks up the tab for the remaining 3 years at WPI. So 3 years at WPI of what the Army is going to pay amounts to about $193,000 and some change. Wow. So that's a big deal for you to be picking up, right? Now, no free chicken, right? Everything will cost something. So for him to do this and complete the program, he will commission an officer into the Army, go forth either into the National Guard, the Army Reserves, or active duty, and have a 8-year service obligation to the Army as an officer. He's just getting started. Next month I hit 30 years. Long dang time ago. You've got a long future ahead of you, but it goes by quickly. So we always want to get out and honor the students and acknowledge their achievements, what they've done, not only in their high school career, but militarily and what they're choosing to go forth. If y'all been watching the news lately, there's a little bit going on in the world, so that's something that you're stepping into. But that's what we do it, right? We sign up. It's all about the selfless service. That's the biggest thing that we preach. It's about selfless service. Not just for you, but to the country, to your family, to everybody standing in this room. So that's why we do this, because this is a lot of money. When you start, you're not going to be making a lot of money. Straight up, we don't do it for the money, we do it for the service. So the other thing, so every time you get an award for the rest of your career in the Army, it's going to come in one of these nice little beautiful green Army things. So really quickly, and then I will get out of your hair. So the Army ROTC Scholarship, be it known that Nathan LaFlamme having achieved a meritorious record in academic studies, extracurricular participation, athletic activities, and having demonstrated exceptional leadership potential as well as an expressed desire to serve as an officer in the United States Army, is conditionally selected for an Army ROTC scholarship. Signed, headquartered United States Army Cadet Command, this was today, the 24th day of June. Signed, Brigadier General, United States Army Commander, U.S. Army Cadet Command. Congratulations, Nathan.
Colonel?
You want to come back up and get it?
I know, that's great. I'm trying to get us out.
I didn't just get you in the middle.
There you go.
Good.
While we still have a little bit of an audience, we do want to do one more recognition that's not on the agenda. And I know you hate this, Mr. Thompson, but your leadership as chair always seems to coincide with some challenges. And you do an exceptional job.
Probably my fault.
No. You do an exceptional job of leading us through that. But I would like you to open that, because we did get creative, because I know you hate these sketches. It was a little different.
Well, thank you for the recognition. That is
There's something else in there too.
There's something else in there, too.
I'm embarrassed. Thank you.
Nice.
Nice. I've been waiting for one of these for crying out loud. Meeting in order.
It says Greg Thompson, courageous leadership as SC Chair 2425.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Very nice.
Oh, boy. That's awesome. Now that you know they go together, so it's perfect.
We can use
Thank
it
you,
in
everyone. I
meetings now.
appreciate that. I might just. The night is young. Okay, let's continue on. We have approval of the 2026 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip.
Okay, so we have two advisors here from Birchland.
How we doing? We'll make this quick. Tim Millett, and we have Catherine Riley here. Katie's with me today to talk about the DC trip because next year, or I should say school year-wise, house hunting and potentially another addition to the family will be coming on my way. So I'm trying to obviously make sure there's a co-captain who's been on this trip many times and who can, if in case I need to, relinquish some of that if I'm needed at home, so to speak. So that's why she's with me. I'm not trying to give anything away. Because it's not in books yet. But this is a request for next year. The trip was phenomenal. I've gotten responses from parents in other towns asking which company we switched to. It was a good decision to switch. I also reached out to the old company to see what it was, World Strides, and but they're still charging an arm and a leg for the trip. So the request again is with Grand Classroom, same time frame, the 13th to the 15th of the May 2026 school year. Looking forward to 100 to 150 kids. It'll be great. And I think, personally, from the civic standpoint, last year was awesome because of obviously bumping into Richard Neal and past vice presidents and things like that. It was really nice. This year was really the student-oriented. There was an addition. The kids had a really good time. We had a dinner boat cruise. The kids loved it. And it really was like the breath in the trip because it's all... And then it just kind of slowed it down for a bit, and the kids really enjoyed it. We have a picture that we're going to put up in the school. Can you show it? I brought other photos, but I know you have a million things, so I won't belabor too much. But if you want to look at it, And other than that, it's really just looking forward to the school committee's approval, superintendent's approval.
Where are you hanging the picture?
It'll be in Birchland.
Nice.
I would have the other one from last year at Capitol, but this one is on the ground in front of the White House, scalding hot. But yeah, no, it was a great trip, and it is something that I genuinely enjoyed doing. And I'm very fortunate that this guy joins us on the trip as well. So.
It's a great picture.
Nice.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, of course.
I've had 2 kids go. This year was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Had a wonderful time.
Yeah, amazing.
My question is just about the arrival back home.
Yeah.
So this year the bus pulled in. I think it was 3:20.
Yeah. That was something. So if you'd like, besides the emails that I had to stay awake from, sending them to all parents, including obviously the faculty that were on the trip. The trip, when we left Friday at 5 o'clock with the weather we've been having, was a nightmare. So we did not leave, I want to say, Virginia for like 2 hours because of the heavy downpour. When we were on the bus, it was about 4:30 and we were supposed to take off. It should not have taken us 2 hours to leave. Unfortunately, the buses wanted to make sure that they were consistent and staying in a pattern, and they were not going over the speed limit or anything like that, and they stayed. When we got to New Jersey for the kids, this is the thing that's new to me. New Jersey did all that lovely construction on the side rest stops, and they close at 8 o'clock, most of them. The buses had a plan to refuel at like 8:39. And when they pulled up, they pulled into a place, they said they needed about 15 to 25 minutes to fuel, and that the kids could get food. One place was open in the entire thing, and it was Burger King. And yours truly ended up having to work at Burger King. I did not expect this at all. There's 2 people in here who can attest to this. I ended up having to help one employee who was doing all the grilling so kids got fed. So I mean this with it's the craziest thing because there was about 125 kids at the Burger King line, one employee wishing he didn't work on a Sunday or Friday night, and it was mayhem. My thing was I want the kids fed. If that took longer. So when they got back on the road, it was longer than anticipated, but the bus company was phenomenal. The correspondence with Grand Classroom was great. I can't say, other than that, I will tell you that I would like to leave closer to like 3 to 2 on that last day if we do that on Friday again, but that's already something that's been noted. So I do apologize.
No, I was just wondering if that, because a couple of years ago, my daughter went and I didn't have that experience. I think it was maybe 12:30 or something.
And that was last year too.
Okay, so I just didn't know if there was a plan in place.
So
I get that there were extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, it was a bad, the 2 hour delay put us way back, and then when we got there, it was like, cool, so what's open? And the kid was like, there's a Dunkin' and there's one guy working at this Burger King. And then you just saw a bunch of students run over to this one spot, and you were like, and I was just shouting kids' names. So, it was a wild time.
Thank you.
No worries.
It's an amazing experience for the kids.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, it is. Any other questions, comments? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve the 2026 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip as presented.
Motion made by Antonella,
Second?
second by Sarah. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. That motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Appreciate
Good luck on everything.
No, of course.
Ahead of you and
Oh, I know.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Katie, for coming.
Katie's,
yeah,
She's just a saint for the people that go on the trip.
that's right.
The reason it works.
Awesome. Okay, take care. Thanks for coming.
I've been a chaperone on it, yeah.
You want to?
No, it's exhausting.
Bring them all up. Are we going to bring them all up now? Just bring everyone up. You can have some questions.
No, don't change anything.
Oh, there it is.
Otherwise, you're only going to get one school.
So is he voting?
I don't know that I have questions. My questions are more about
This stuff.
William, did you vote on that last one?
it's,
Oh,
yeah, so
Okay.
do you
don't,
want to go to that stuff?
Okay, so 5-0. Thank you.
Good. We can do that first and then we'll do that.
it's totally up to you. Don't.
Mrs.
do it
Thompson, we do
on
have
my-
William with us.
Oh, William, where are you these days? In an airplane? Oh, you're on the ground. Good. Bradley still. What a trooper. Thank you for joining.
He's dedicated.
He is. It's nice.
Do you mind if we jump down to these?
Sure.
Because Amy's going to leave and she wanted to go through those. 6162, Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay. I take then, entertain a motion to
Go to work study first.
take that out of order, please.
So moved.
Motion made by Sarah.
Second.
Second by Amy. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carries 4-0. Yeah, please. Just quick. So one of our members has to leave. She just had some things she wanted to review, and then we'll get back on track real quick. Okay. Thank you.
And before I forget, I did tell Bonnie Rivera to give one quick update for that exchange program with Spain that's happening next year. So we do have the dates for when our students are going to Spain, and also when we have visitors coming our way. They're from, I can't remember the name of the town off the top of my head, but it's going to be from the southern coast of Spain, and they're coming from 9:29 to 10:10. There's 11 students and 2 chaperones coming. And then our students go in April, 4:15 to 4:25, which falls over mostly over April break. So those dates are at this point solidified, and the programs and communication of the roster of students.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
That's exciting, yeah.
great stuff.
The full month of school will be all set up when they arrive, which is great.
Before the bad weather hits.
Yeah.
Cold weather. All right, so I believe Superintendent's going to share with you an updated. This is not obviously what would go into the program of studies. We would clean that piece up a little bit, but this is the syllabus. It's a detailed syllabus outlining how we're looking to revamp the work study program. I think the last time we talked about this, I reflected on the program quite a bit and saw areas where I felt we needed to improve. Had some great conversations with Mark Macarini as well. I did task Mark with putting together the bones of this, because I think, as the guy who manages it, I also want him to buy in and be on board. I feel he put together a program that I feel proud of, and I think it's going to have value for our students, not just in terms of the work component, but also just the educational component that we're now going to layer on top of that work experience. I'm hoping, that what we've outlined and what we've put together, I think, better meets the needs of what I think what work study program should be, and addresses some of the concerns you guys had last time, which, having reflected myself on that, I fully understand now why we definitely have to tweak some things to make them better.
Are the credits staying? What you're offering for credits?
Yeah, it's that 8-credit program. We did also, I'm not sure, I think I ended up sharing 2 or 3 different versions of Jordan. But there's also going to be an independent study block assigned to those kids for that G block, and they can earn the right to leave during that time after term 1 if their grades are up to par and their attendance is up to par, just so we're not facing students who might be slipping a little bit. Any kids who aren't meeting our standards that we've set for them, they would be staying for that G block every day until those grades and attendance is up to par. Just for term 1, the only opportunity that they're going to have to leave is going to be close to 1 o'clock each day.
And the 7 hours per week minimum, it can be done at any time still.
It can, yeah. We did align that to the amount of time they could potentially leave the building, just to increase that requirement. Because on any given week, about 7 hours is the amount of time that they would potentially be dismissing early.
The work-based learning plan that you sent or gave us, who fills this out?
So Mark's hope is to, as he goes through each term, ask the supervisor or the employer to fill out different portions of it each term to give him feedback, and then he can also use those sessions to debrief with the students. So he does want to bring that back to get regular feedback from the employer.
So he'll be in direct communication with each student's employer?
Yeah, he is now. He always has been, but I think more so now. Yes.
And then is this part of the grade?
Yes. Yep.
Because I don't think it's in here, that's why.
So he has the pay stubs, which is always, obviously, that's the working, right?
Yeah.
Workshop attendance and participation, and then the assignments, it's my understanding, would be embedded in those assignments. The kids would be tasked with going to get that signed off on by their employer, bring it back to them, and completing that. But I can verify that piece with Mark.
Like when you look under the calendar page,
Yep.
where it says like week of 10/20, assignment reflection, and employer criteria evaluation 1.
Yep.
So that's the assignment, and then this
Yes.
being completed, which would roll into that.
Yep.
Assignment's 30%.
Yes. Yes.
I think if we do use this, it would be important after a year or so to get some feedback on how.
Definitely.
It's almost mandatory that these come back, but to see how many actually come back on each student would be important.
And I'm noticing a couple typos. So that should say criteria evaluation 1, 2, 3, and 4, because when him and I sat down, we broke it out into 4 different parts. So I'm guessing he copied and pasted that and just didn't change the numbers in order. But there are 4 different parts of the work-based learning plan on getting feedback from their employers.
Okay.
Yeah. I think in addition to Mr. Macarini, we had a student come to us today, and Ava, so being able to even ask a few students to reflect on their experience and how this has shifted, and being able to hear from them as to what from these assignments, including like the resume building, the problem solving, like what of those are they seeing as being valuable to them as they're moving forward.
So, and I'll just add to, Mark did meet with all the students right before school got out, and outlined the expectations so they know day one is not like it's going to be dropped on in August. So they knew before they left for school that this was going to be the expectation. He also made a point of getting feedback from the kids about what their thoughts were, and he actually got some very positive feedback from the students in terms of learning how to navigate different things in the workspace, that career component of starting to think about, what life might look like beyond East Middle High School. Even just having that space to make sure that they're on top of their work, because when kids do leave us early, sometimes they do get a little disconnected from school. So just having that home base too, I think it's going to work well.
Do we ever have employers from their perspective reach out looking for employees, students to be part of this? Homegrown businesses, local companies.
Yes.
Trades.
Mark has local companies reach out to him all the time.
That's great.
Just looking for kids to work. Not necessarily always part of this program, but just trying to connect him with.
But even to incorporate it with this, if we could work both ways, not only do students come with their own jobs, but work with partnerships with companies that would offer 1 or 2 positions perhaps a year. I'm sure there might be some out there that would be willing to work with students,
There have definitely been partnerships that relationships he has built through this program to where they continue to reach out to him and say, hey, you have a good kid who might be good at this or interested in this field.
That's awesome. Cool.
So.
How many students do you have enrolled for the fall?
About 30, 35. 35. So, and they'll have to have verified enrollment in August, or they get put right into classes before school starts.
The only other question I have, which maybe it's already tied in, is in September, I think it's really terrific that they're going to be talking about how to read a pay stub and how to save for retirement. And thinking about, is there a way that comes back at the end? Like, you've worked for a year.
What do you put away?
What have you put away? Are we thinking about, the creation of a savings plan, tying financial literacy maybe a little bit into that, because there are financial literacy standards within the civics framework.
Yes,
So
there are.
being able
Yep.
to connect those pieces maybe to help kids leave. I mean, not every student knows when they leave high school
Yep.
how to save for a 403B or a 401K. And if there's interest in going into the workforce, then setting them up to be successful as a result of being a function of the workforce, so.
I can definitely give Mark that feedback and find
Just a
out. I will say Mark has at times in the past also taught in the business department, and he has even taught personal finance as a course. So, he has the curriculum and
Knowledge
skills
base,
set
yeah.
for the knowledge base, yeah.
That might be something just as a reflection.
And that would be a good class for probably everybody.
Yeah, it's true.
So it is in our business department.
Oh, okay.
As an elective,
right.
but they have come to me numerous times asking to make the graduation requirement. They do, and there's a piece of me that wants to agree with that, but we also do have a pretty robust set of graduation requirements. So I get both sides, but I get it, because I think there's a lot of skills that our students don't fully know until they get out into that real world.
Right.
Appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you. Certainly. Do you need an approval from us for any of this tonight?
But this is going into a change in the program
Program of
studies.
studies, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the one thing I didn't realize until honestly like yesterday was that I actually didn't write up a updated program studies description for you guys, but I can definitely take this and put that piece in for you, and I can email that along.
Okay. So then I would entertain a motion to approve the modification of program of studies for the work study program as discussed tonight. You can just go
So
off that.
moved.
Perfect, Sarah. Motion made by Sarah.
Second.
Second by Amy. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Wait, I did have one more thing.
Yep, go ahead.
In a year, can we come back and you can give us the feedback and kind of to give us the numbers and any surveys you gave and any information and maybe any ways you guys are going to be changing it?
Yeah, I'll task Mark that.
Yeah.
I'll ask him to put
Yeah.
some information together.
Maybe before the students leave for the year.
Yeah.
If we could do that.
We could probably tie it into any program studies changes.
His last
Yeah.
piece, if you look at his May agenda item, it's evaluation of the program.
Yeah, cool.
So he's looking for that feedback himself and he wants to see what went well.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay, appreciate the changes to that.
Yes.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That carries. William, yeah, 5-0. Okay.
Thank you. This looks very
Okay. Competency determination.
Okay, so this is a combination of Ms. Brown, Ms. Page, and me. And over the last few weeks, what we're finding is that it's becoming less of a district-centered or governed item and more of a DESE and state-run item. As you may all be aware, and I did include it in the information packet, the Board of Education voted back on May 20th, and they added their specific criteria for the class of 2026, which we actually already had covered, but then they also added for the class of 2027 the one-year history course being passed. And so we've added that now. I think this is probably going to come back to all of you because there was a webinar last week on the 17th. DESE started to outline some of the things that they feel will eventually be put in place for competency determination years to come, 27, 28, and so forth. And they're going to try to put together guidance, I believe, over the next few months so that they're meeting the wishes of the board and providing answers to districts. But we would be, in adopting this, in compliance with what the board has already voted on and certainly coordinated with our own high school graduation requirements. And not inhibiting the class of 2026. So we don't want to necessarily derail them.
Yeah, the state is trying to convene a graduation, this is different than competency, but the graduation requirements committee. Sorry, it's okay. So
Yeah.
just to back up
It
what you're
seems
saying,
like
it's
they're trying to
coming
coordinate
together
the
with
two.
what they're gonna tell us we need to do.
You know, right now, they're out there having hearings on their graduation requirements, thoughts.
I just had one question, and I understand that this is a totally moving target, and you've explained that really well, but is this not like a time where we really can look forward and add something a little bit more robust? Like, I'm not saying I don't want to create more work for people, I don't want to put something unreasonable on teachers, but something a little bit more performance-based, like a capstone experience, or something that can make us stand out a little bit and maybe help us get ahead of where it seems like the state might be going.
So I think you would probably add that to the graduation requirements, because most of the competency determination seems to be around the first 2 years of high school, because they're still basing it on how they use the MCAS assessment. But that's a great idea, because we've certainly had discussion over the course of time are there things we should be adding to the graduation requirements? So maybe a capstone, because you're looking
Or like a
for-
senior exhibition, something
Right,
that
something.
is like a real, true culmination that can help everybody, you know, thinking of it from an equity standpoint and other standpoints. Everybody has an opportunity to be successful with something like that and really demonstrate some deeper learning. I think this is wonderful, and again, you've explained well that this is going to change, but I'm just wondering if it's an opportunity to try to get a step ahead with.
I think you have opportunity too, Amy, when you look at the community service.
Yeah.
There's already
Yeah.
a requirement for 40 hours of community service. Is
Yes.
there a way to put like a bow on that, so to speak, maybe, and say it's a requirement for graduation beyond just getting your paper signed?
Right,
What did
right, because
that-
that's what it is at this point, kind of. It's like you
We're
get
talking
your
graduation requirements now, okay.
yeah, your community service, which is fantastic, but as it stands right now, it's more of just sign off and hand it in and get it verified. But maybe even that's something to think about, to make that a little bit more of a culminating experience and something to celebrate, where the students can share what they did. Or I don't know, I'm just, as I was
Brainstorming.
looking through this, I was sort of just thinking, how could we maybe get a little bit ahead of where it seems like the state could be going?
Any thoughts, Mr. Page?
Yeah, so I love the idea. I just knowing the history here, we've tried different things in the past. We used to have our senior project, which was very similar to like capstone. We did pivot away from that when the state introduced the civics project, which the kids now do junior year. So we just kind of made that more of an intentional focus. But maybe there is something we could potentially do with some type of capstone, maybe something connected to community service. My mind goes to Springfield College or Mannix in Action Day, something along those lines.
Yeah, that's cool.
So there may be something there that we could potentially tie in.
They're actually one of the civics projects. One young lady, I shared it with you, and Mr. Macarini put together something similar to Springfield College's Humanities Day, and how you could tie in the community service. Maybe that's a starting
Yeah,
point.
she was actually pitching a very similar idea as a graduation requirement.
Right.
So.
I love that idea.
So there may be something there. I will say what I do prefer with Civics Project versus our previous senior project. Senior projects seem very individually focused. It was kind of like setting careers, while the Civics Project is more community focused. So I do like that aspect of it better, where it pushes the kids to go out and engage in something actively in the community. But maybe there's another piece of potentially layer in.
And maybe there's some choice, like when you look at like the competency determination and like the goals of that, being around post-secondary education, workforce, and civic life. Maybe it's one of those 3 avenues that a function of graduation has to be connected to, post-secondary education. Maybe if you're choosing the workforce, it's tied to your attendance daily because you have to go to work on a daily basis, and that's a lifelong skill that's going to carry you through. If it's civic life, like how are you getting engaged in your local community, and how are you building off of something that's maybe already a function of your goals to help kind of bring your high school experience to a close. So that it could be further exploration around any of those three, because it's speaking to life after East Long Meadow High School, which is where we want to see kids really thrive.
Would you like us to develop some ideas and bring them back for next year? What's the direction the committee would like to go?
So that would be for graduation requirement.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
pretty much dictated by the state.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And if you do it, you're probably going to need to develop it maybe for the incoming, not this year's 9th grade, but maybe the 8th grade behind it.
So I know you guys are the governing body that votes on and makes these decisions, right? And then obviously we as a school would want to implement them. I think it'd be great, maybe, I don't know if we can do this like I think you guys have done in the past, have some professional development sessions with school committee, maybe talk through some of these things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much that goes into making decisions around
Sure.
graduation requirements,
Mhm.
which obviously is separate from competency determination, which is separate from S4, right?
Mm-hmm.
So looking at all the components mixed there and just doing a self-reflection on them. Because I will say our graduation requirements vary different, like a lot from schools like Minnechaug, Long Meadow, we're often seen as our peers. So like, why do they do something that we don't, or why do we do something that they don't? You know, so just digging into that, I think would be a really good conversation versus,
Right.
you know,
Coming back.
with something where you guys are kind of in the dark until we bring it to you. But if you guys have thoughts on those, because ultimately you are the decision makers around those graduation requirements, maybe it's good to have that collaboration and sit down together.
Yeah.
Maybe we can
it's-
schedule some, as we start up in August again, some professional development, or even if we're waiting for teachers to participate, maybe we can do it in September.
And keep an eye on the updates from the state
State.
because
Right,
they
they're
also,
gonna, yeah, they will wait.
not just competency, but graduation.
I know, that's coming next,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but maybe we can get ahead of it as.
Yes.
And I think get ahead of it like in a fair way, like
Right.
fair to the students, fair to faculty, and like not necessarily saying the class of 2028 or
Yeah.
like maybe it's 2029 or 2030, so that there's time. So if it's when it is done, it's done with a level of intentionality and meaning that actually does what it is we're brainstorming about now.
Do we need an approval for this too, Gordon?
It would help to have an approval of the current competency determination, which we do think will change,
Right.
but that will at least allow us to start to message this out for incoming 9th graders and certainly our current students at ELHS.
Okay. Can I have that motion, please?
Move to approve the revised ELHS competency determination requirements as presented.
Motion made by Sarah. Second by Antonella. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. I don't think William's
Those
here.
thumbs up? Yeah, he's
Yes.
there.
Oh, yeah.
That's how he's
Wow,
signaling us.
Nice.
Thumbs up.
There's all kinds of thumbs up.
Motion carries 5-0.
Nice job.
Thank you,
All
Amy.
kinds of new stuff.
Yep. We'll see you 4th of July, right?
Don't we have a July 1st meeting?
Oh,
Yes.
we'll see you 1st of July. Yeah.
We didn't make that date or time. That's all right.
Go a step back now, Steve.
It's 7.5.
Do you want to go back in order
I'm here
now?
now.
Do we need to do the graduation requirements too or no?
Graduation requirements are already approved.
Okay, so we don't have,
Yeah.
there was no changes.
No.
Got it.
I put those in there for
Just as a
exactly that
reflection.
type of
Yep.
discussion
No, that's perfect, I just
because
wanted to make sure before.
they have to be coordinated really.
Steve, you mind if Frank goes first since he's here already?
I think I could be the bigger man about this.
Okay. You are
All
that.
right,
Thank
hold
you.
on, let me pull up ELHS.
Is that a height joke, Mr. Pearson?
See, we make things happen around here, Mr. Wright.
Who's gonna set the tone for us?
All right. Mr. Page, Ms. Blaine, Mr. Wright, the floor is yours.
Okay. All right, so I will do my best to be brief because I'm sure you guys want to hear me talk all night. So the first goal that's up here just connects back to some of the work that we've done around attendance and taking on chronic absenteeism at the high school, and also working on both supporting kids but also making sure that there's accountability around that. So this slide just goes back to some of our data from last school year of 23-24, where just based on the state benchmarks, we exceeded all targets when it came to our accountability data, which was great. But we also knew that there were still areas where we can improve to make sure that all of our kids attended school on a regular basis. So with that, I'm going to turn over the next slide to Gary and let him talk a little bit about some of the where our attendance was at this year. And some of the work that him and Ann did to work with kids who were chronically absent.
We have to go back to the spring of 24. I started meeting with seniors and their families with really heavy numbers of classes that they've missed. So we found that it's not so much our issue isn't about kids missing the whole day. It's more about coming in late. It's more about getting dismissed, leaving early. So we end up with a student who might have 1 or 2 classes where they have 20, 25, 30 absences. But if you look here, it's great. It's 96% attendance. They got credit for the day. So we just were really uncomfortable with the number of absences that kids are having from specific classes. So I started meeting with these families and saying, listen, at this point you've surpassed the number I've pulled to credit. Here's a recovery plan. Your student can recover their time with the teacher. And so we piloted that for about 3 months. And every parent that would come in, almost every parent, and Frank had to meet with many of them, they were irate because their daughter or their son is under all these situations. How can I expect them to make this time up? And I said, well, they need to be with their teachers, right? Like this is the purpose of why they're in school. So every single kid last year did it. Every single kid got their credit back. There was a small pilot. It was like maybe 10 kids, 12 kids, something like that. So then Ann and I met this summer and we started talking about the steps that we were taking with the seniors. And so we rolled out a plan 9 through 12, where her and I would send warning notifications proactively. You're halfway to the number. And then we would also follow up when they hit the number. We've now pulled your credit. And in the email, it's come meet with us. Let's talk about a plan to recover. Our current policy suggests that there's only an appeal that's available for families. And so when we meet about that, if a student's not in the hospital for 2 weeks, then why are you asking me for an appeal? Your daughter had the flu 3 times. I'm sorry about that. But that's not an appeal-worthy situation. So now we have this recovery plan. So we would start meeting with families. I'd say the first meetings started happening late in the first semester because those semester-based courses, they get 10 absences. So at 10, we would pull that credit. Families come in, give them the recovery sheet. They start staying after with teachers. And so by February, March, April, it's more of those year-long courses kids are getting into these numbers. So overall this year, I think we sent around 1,400 warnings and around, I'd say, close to 300 notices of loss of credit, roughly, something along those lines. Almost 70 kids participated in attendance recovery with us, including up to today. I had 2 juniors in the conference room today recovering more hours so that I could fix their grades for them. And so we've recovered 133 courses now that the kids, they won't have to take credit recovery for it. And maybe in the 5 or 10 years ago, they would have just gotten the credit. And then next year they would have had more absences and then more absences. So we really feel like even though, yes, they probably would have gotten the credit anyhow, these kids were actually thanking us. I had seniors that came in from the last day from May 28th to June 5th or so, and they were thanking me when they left for allowing them to recover the time. So, and we had juniors staying back at school on junior skip day. We have seniors staying for senior skip day. we don't hold certain school function, any school function isn't held against them. So they can do field trips, they can do, we're not holding that stuff against them, but, I have a mom calling, my daughter's running out of the house to get to school on time because she knows she'll have to make up the class if she misses again. And so it just, again, like our daily attendance, from year to year, it probably doesn't look tremendously different. But in terms, if you looked at our class by class breakdown and look at the number of, I think we'll see the impact more next year, but the number of kids that fixed their period by period attendance late in the year because they didn't want to have to keep recovering classes, there was a real impact. On our daily attendance because they needed to be here. So I'd have a mom calling me, we want to go out of town. Does she have another day to miss? Like, if she wants to make it up, go ahead. I mean, she just needs to stay after school another 4 or 5 days. So it actually started some really good conversation. And a lot of parents who thought maybe their students' anxiety or mental health was getting in the way, those students are the ones that stepped up the most in many cases because they would know, I got this. If I can stay after school, this kind of relieves my stress a little bit because I can make my time up. And then if I miss one, I just know I have to make up another one. So it kind of offered them a little bit of a balancing act as well. So we're looking forward next year to the impact really because that will be a full year being implemented. So see how it goes.
I can chime in on just two things for Gary before you guys jump in. One, we're talking about kids who are passing classes, but we're losing credit due to attendance.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about kids who are failing outright. But two, how our policy reads and how we used to always implement things, this was done at the teacher level, where the appeal would go to the administrators, and I will just say, Gordon, I think you know this from your years back as the AP.
Okay.
It was inconsistent from teacher to teacher based on how they implemented that piece. So when Gary and Ann came to me last summer about this, I looked at them like, are you guys sure you want to take this on? Because you're talking about taking on 800 kids yourself, but they wanted it. And I've said this in front of our staff more than once, like they took on a heavy load this year of working on the attendance and we saw success. There was, those thank yous were sincere. I saw myself. I saw one mom who was upset that her daughter had to make up the time, and the daughter told her mom, stop.
Yeah. Mr. Wright, my mom said, this is crazy. I told her, be quiet, I'm doing this. But we actually, so we were able to flip it.
Kids
So
taking accountability, and it was cool. So just those things, it was really great to see this year.
when we approach it, put the students side by side with the teacher instead of adversarial. So if the teacher's pulling the credit, then it's teacher against student.
Yeah.
And so what we were able to do is just say, hey, get your teacher to sign it, go talk with your teacher, stay after with her. Maybe she'll stay for an extra day for you, We had kids coming in at 6:30 in the morning because the teacher was willing to meet with them at that time. So, it definitely has had a big impact in that way.
So they had to stay with the teacher to make up the time?
So we opened up the door for year one and I basically told them, any adult in this building, if you can find an adult who's staying on Wednesday and that's the only day you can stay, because our teachers have one office hour that they're obligated to stay. So if it's Mondays, let's say, and I just can't stay Mondays, but I can stay Wednesdays. So I was like, okay, stay with any teacher you need to, and then I look at their grades. It looks like you can stay with your math teacher, so why don't we start there? But yeah, I have a stack this thick of these logs that have been turned in this year, so.
It definitely was impactful, and I didn't have as many students at the 9th and 10th grade level that Gary had because, of course, 11th and 12th graders come in late because they bring themselves most of the time. But for the kids who followed through and they took the warning seriously, we did see a decrease, at least I did at the 9th and 10th grade level. There was more of a push to get to school on time. And then for students who did have to make up the credit because they got the email for the loss, it went to the students and their families, so everyone was informed. And there were a few who didn't follow through, and then for all the ones that did, they took it. And one girl, her father sent me a long email, I don't think this is fair, she had X, Y, and Z going on, and she said to me, I got this, Mrs. Blaine. And she went home and talked to her dad, and he drove her back the next day. After school had already gone out, she came in 4 days in a row and finished today. So it's having an impact. Yeah.
Cool. How is attendance counted? Is it from their first, how is full day attendance?
We use daily attendance as our first block.
First block.
So we have period attendance where we track it by each class that they're in.
Yeah, so we have both sets of data.
So the full day attendance, though, it's from their first period.
Yeah, and so a lot of times, and through some of this work, we actually will find we can clean up their daily attendance because we'll find, that they're only missing a block, and so sometimes we just miss that in our system, and it'll become a daily absence instead of just a period absence.
Right.
It's actually been a little bit helpful there too, because this kid should have been present all day and only absent for that one class.
So for the
part of the
student
school.
who might come in at 10:30 and they miss half of the day, they still get, as long as you're in for half of the day, you get that daily attendance credit. There's very few kids who come in at like halfway through the day, But we do have a lot of kids who sometimes they just don't come in first block, or they come in late through first block, so we do have to clean up the attendance on our end.
In order to be in extracurriculars and athletics, they have to be here half the day.
Yeah, well, no, full day, it's by 8 for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
MIA.
Well, which this also helps with many of those conversations too, because it's like, you're an athlete and this is what's going on. When your season begins, are you aware of this? It actually opened the door for a lot of just variety of conversations.
That's so important, you're finding out the why.
Yeah.
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 Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I forgot we were plenty there. All right, so the next goal was around teaching and learning, and our goal this year at the high school was to really work on those skills in the math and English, both in ninth grade for the whole grade, and then also with that intensive cohort of students who we thought needed, we identified needed that additional support in the 10th grade class. The focus was to help prepare them and give them the skills they needed to be successful in the MCAS in order to meet that graduation requirement. That kind of got flipped on its head when we hit November. But I will say the feedback I got from the two teachers who co-taught that MCAS preparation course for that sophomore cohort, even in May, after the MCAS was already over, was how much they enjoyed teaching that class, working together, working with the students. So we are going to continue with that model going into next year, because we still think we have that cohort of kids who need that additional support in math and English, regardless of that MCAS component. So we are changing that name, but we are going to continue to work with those kids on their math and English skills with a certified math teacher and a certified English teacher. So all that said, the slide that you have in front of you is from our 9th grade students from ELA. The chart just shows how their diagnostic scores played out from September, that first diagnostic back in September to their May diagnostic on the far right of the chart. It's great when you see those lines go from left to right, going continuously up. You don't see that dip for the most part. Our students started the year, that upper blue line, not the one at the bottom, but that upper blue line, as a cohort, they started at around the 8.5 grade level, and they finished just shy of 9.2, 9.3 as a cohort for their overall scores. But what was great is we did see 3 out of those 6 categories where they were at a 10th grade level or higher, being...
That's the idea, right?
What's that?
That's the idea, right?
Yeah. In reading, the reading level, the vocabulary, and the writing strategies were areas where we saw them basically hit that end of year point that we wanted to see them hit.
Grammar and mechanics will improve.
Yeah, so that's the area that we continually, obviously it's clear.
I'll be talking about that later.
It's our second year running diagnostics with our students. We've consistently seen the grammar and mechanics as an area of need. And it's definitely one that we want to continue to focus on because the students as a cohort, even at the end of freshman year, consistently do score below grade level, significantly below grade level. All right, go to the next one.
I have a question about this one.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
What program is this that the chart's giving?
IXL.
IXL.
Yeah, so we don't use iReady at the high school because it only goes through grade 8, and the diagnostic doesn't have the skills and lessons plans in iReady that they do for IXL.
This has a personalized learning at the high school level.
Yeah. So this IXL does go all the way through grade 12, even though we only use it through grade 10 at the moment.
Just 9 and 10 use it.
Yeah, but I did pitch and threw out the idea, and I said I appreciate your email the other day to find out what it would cost to run it through grade 12. Because I will say both our math and English teachers They love it as a resource, they use it as a supplement to their teaching. And they've asked if they can get it in all of their classes to utilize. So it's not just like we run the diagnostic and that's it. They found ways to individualize instruction for kids, use it as activators for classes, reteach when kids aren't getting skills. It even runs through calculus. I've had the calculus teacher inquire about whether she could use it for her courses. So, but yes, this is long and short, it's IXL.
Are there other reports that give like a percentage of students? So this many students are now at the 10th or higher, and because that's what we see in the other grade levels. So I didn't know if they do it in this either.
Yes.
Just so it gives us a better idea of, how many kids are still at 8.5.
Okay.
I don't know if they have those reports, because I don't use that, I've never used that program, so I don't know.
They have a ton of different reports in there. Yeah.
So if it's-
Keep adding to them.
Yeah. So so you're talking about different grade levels, like where those kids are at.
Well, yeah, like this many, 200 students are now at this, and they were at this.
Got it. Okay.
And maybe making that one of the goals for next year, like 80% of the 9th grade will have, 10th grade reading level or something.
Yep.
Just
So,
to throw that out.
yeah, I can sit down, Heather and I can kind of dig into those reports and see which, like they do have some different pie charts in terms of like at grade level, below grade level, significantly below grade level, things like that.
We can look and see what's similar to the iReady growth report, so.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with how iReady spits them out, so I'm sure Heather can kind of show me what that is, and we can kind of look for that similar one that IXL might have.
Yeah, just because it gives us a better idea of how many kids are doing
Are we
this
talking about?
compared to this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
And are the diagnostics are not, those are used as more formative data, so those aren't rolling into report card grades or anything like
No.
that?
No, just formative, so.
And is IXL the venue by which common summative unit assessments would be created so that we're able to have consistency in grading as it connects back to the competency determination, which we had talked about?
So, on the ELA side, the Odell curriculum does have cumulative tasks at the end of each unit that we're planning on utilizing those as some type of common assessment versus IXL. Because IXL it's a supplement to the curriculum, it complements what we do, but it's not the curriculum. So I'd be hesitant to utilize that as the common assessment.
So in Odell, are those assessments editable by teacher, or when we say common, we mean common, like what Frank's giving is what Ann's giving is what Gary's giving?
So the cumulative task at the end of each unit is common.
Okay.
One of the things Heather and I had talked about recently was, okay, now that we're implementing these, the next piece is getting our departments to start calibrating their grading practices around those. So I think that's going to be the piece that we're going to start layering in next.
Okay.
Because I think, teacher A and teacher B can give the same assignment, but even with the same rubric, we can both grade it differently, so we have to figure out that calibration piece as well,
That's, I think, like we've talked about before.
Yep.
If Gordon's giving an A and Sam's giving a C and the work is the same, how are we making sure that we're on the same page? Because if we're now stamping what passing means,
It's probably a B.
yeah,
Yeah.
we need to have that consistency in development.
On the math side, just to answer that question, and we'll talk about it on the next slide. Do you want to go to the next slide? So, in terms of common assessments on the math side, the department does have in our commonly taught courses both a common midterm and final exam in those courses. That is also outside of IXL. I have been in conversations with the department head about, and I think we had talked about this, potentially using the assessment builder within IXL to get more accurate data. One of the things I'm planning on doing this summer is digging into that and making sure that we do it the right way, where it also allows us to continue to get growth. Because the initial eye test of it, it's more broken out in the segments of the course, and not necessarily going to give us that growth data from over the course of the year. So We still want to be able to, one, see that the kids are growing from September through June, but at the same time, making sure that our teachers are lockstep in terms of where they are in their instruction and how their kids are being assessed. But just to hit on this slide, and when we talked about it at the February meeting, so we do have a number of strands where the students are demonstrating below grade level. What I was happy to see on the algebraic strand, which is what we want to see at the end of our freshman year, is our students as a cohort ready 9.5 for algebra and algebraic thinking, which is a growth from, as a cohort, 7.5 in September. You know, so we did see that growth of their algebra skills over the course of the year, and most freshmen take algebra. You know, there's definitely areas where you know, I see in this based on how they're being assessed that we have to improve, but it was great to see that growth in the course that the students are taking during that time.
And I think I asked this before, but how does this in particular, because it's not quite as strong in math as it was in ELA, how does this match up to what we see on report card grades? Do we see, I mean, because if 9.5 means you're exiting grade 9 halfway through grade 9. So you're moving into grade 10 half a year, so to speak, behind.
The algebra should be closer to grade 10, you mean?
I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we're looking at that algebra score,
Yep.
What the final like cumulative averages would be for our algebra cohort or our algebra 1 honors cohort, I don't have those, but I can definitely get those.
I'm just thinking
Yeah.
like to see like, is this, to begin to triangulate that data, is this
Yeah.
giving us information that is matching student performance data that teachers are seeing?
Yep.
If so, do we then see that reflected in the report card grade that's being given? If there's a disconnect, why?
Yeah, if I would agree with you that if 9.5 means they're still finishing below grade level at the end of that year, we should see them closer to 10 than a 9.5. And then if I'm looking at report cards and see A's across the board, that's a concern.
Right.
I would bet that's probably not the case, but I don't have that data of where they finished the year, but I can definitely.
It would just be interesting to see, because then you can start to lean into what is giving us the most valid measure.
Yeah.
And then if it is this, how then are we utilizing, like you mentioned, the different components to provide more intentional, targeted standards practice based on what the report is telling you kids are in need of. Because when you look at, post-secondary success, passing Algebra 1 is one of the biggest indicators of post-secondary success for students.
Yeah.
So making sure that when we're saying they're passing,
Yeah.
that it's solid footing.
Yeah. And our department always talks about the importance of Algebra 1 to prepare students for what they take their junior year, which is Algebra 2. Which is typically where you start to see students branch off senior year and going into different math levels, whether it's problem stat or calculus, pre-calc, whatever it might be. But Algebra 2 really being that, I don't want to say capstone of the math department, but it is that one that the state does expect students to achieve too. So. So the next slide just talks about the growth that we saw from our students in that cohort from the 10th grade team. So I did put in the information about the growth that we saw in our 9th grade students, both in English and math, in terms of the grade levels, based on that first diagnostic in the fall to the spring diagnostic given in May, where we saw 1.2 grade levels growth on the ELA side, and 1.4 levels of growth on the math side. But on the 10th grade cohort, just to hit on that, and that's a cohort of 23 kids who all came in below that 10th grade that level. We did see what we thought was some solid growth both in ELA, where it was 1.1 grade levels, and then 0.77 grade levels on the math side. So we saw those kids continue to make gains over the course of the year. We don't see that stretch growth where they got beyond just one grade, but they still did continue to make progress over the course of the year.
is there opportunity to talk to the educators who are servicing these students to see what types of professional learning they're in need of to make that impact greater? Like, are they in need of foundational math skills or foundational reading skills that aren't necessarily part of what they're used to teaching because as a result of the profile of student that they're now being asked to support? And it's literally just a question. Like, it could just be that they have like a mismatch of my skill set tells me X, yet I'm servicing a group of students that need Y. How do I bridge that gap through either a resource or through some professional learning so that I'm able to better affect growth for the students who I know need it?
Yeah, I'll say that the two individuals that we assigned to that 10th grade team were very intentional because we knew we were asking them to do some heavy lifting. Having observed those classes and sat in on their meetings for their co-planning, and then also debriefing at the end of the year, I think we picked the right two teachers. We do definitely have some high need kids who are in that cohort. But I think we can have that conversation about additional training, but I do think we have the right individuals identified to run it.
It's great. They clearly made an impact. It's just trying to see what do they need to go.
Continue to push. Yep.
And then will these 23 be, how will they be supported going into grade 11?
We don't have a structure in place for grades 11 and 12 to that level at this time. Yeah.
So will it be, so ninth grade also has a cohort?
That will run into 10.
So that that data point or data set that you have for ninth grade is the entire ninth grade.
Okay.
We did test all students on the diagnostic in grade 10 who were in a standard level offering. So kids who were in standard geometry or students who were in standard English. They did. I do have diagnostic scores on them. What I just broke out were the students who were on that 10th grade team who were being prepared for the MCAS, where it's a group that needed that additional layer of support going into the year. We knew that they were significantly below grade level and it needed some academic skill building. And that's just the data that I shared tonight was with that specific group.
Oh, okay.
So for their overall freshmen, the whole group is starting at 66. Is that meaning they're starting at a 6th and 2/3 grade level?
Yes.
And so is that a concern? That's where our baseline is?
That's a tier 1 issue, yeah.
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 Compared to overall for ELA 844, again, we're half a year behind. Is that a reasonable statement to say?
Yep.
Are other districts meeting the true numbers, or is this
I think
typical?
it's a common issue, but
Yep.
doesn't mean it's not one that we want to continue to work on. And so one of the ways we're trying to fill that gap is having the consistent, high-quality curricular materials in everyone's hands, the professional development, MTSS teams to make sure kids aren't falling through the cracks. We have all sorts of things in place, but I don't look at that lightly either.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know the iReady program and how it might translate to iExcel. Because I would guess when Steve looks at his 8th grade data, he's not seeing a 6.6.
No, there's not a score, right, Steve, per se like that?
We can get that.
Yeah, and it's not what the standard one I would look at.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah. I would assume that as a cohort would probably be higher. But I just don't know how the programs relate.
It might be worth emailing both companies
Asking.
and asking if they have a correlation chart. A lot of times,
they really?
partnerships like that can say, hey, this is how we
I got it.
correlate to this particular company. I think Imagine Learning does some correlational work
Yep.
like that. ST Math and Curriculum Associates do
Yep.
some correlational work, so they might even have something that lets you know.
They definitely have it between the assessment system and curricular materials. It would be interesting to see if they have it assessment.
Sometimes, I mean,
I'll ask.
your customers.
Yep.
You can say, I want to talk to you and I want to talk to you at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, they're providing a service
Yep.
that is meant to benefit students regardless of grade level and regardless of company brand. If you need something from one to work in service of the other, it serves them to have you have what you need in order to be able to make that step.
Yeah. I'm also hoping that the growth that you saw in the elementary, as the kids come up with that solid foundation and coherence, will have an impact when they come to the high school. I'm not hoping, I'm banking on it.
Okay. Just our last slide, I'm gonna turn the floor over to Ann and just talk about some of the stuff we did just on culture and climate for our building.
If you look at the right side of the page, you can see that we had our student experience surveys from the fall and the spring. And obviously, we're happy that we made some gains in terms of students feeling like they're part of the community at school, and then also feeling that their school is inclusive of all backgrounds and identities. We did some work that we were really intentional with trying to bring in not only students' voices, but also like bringing in their families. And so some of the things that we've done is the program of studies or the curriculum night, bringing in families, the 8th grade family night where students attend with their parents. The school council worked on actually looking at the survey data this year, and the students and their parents gave us some really good ideas as to things that we could do to bring in support. And we worked together to organize an all-school assembly on substance use. We brought in a guest speaker. The DA's office had some programming at our school this year during the day, but we also had a forum on social media awareness at night. Some of the PD is also really focusing on inclusivity and culture and climate and belonging. The work that we did with Dr. Peppel, also the regulated classroom PD that was ongoing throughout the year. And then in addition to these whole school surveys and the information we're getting, we have a lot of teachers and in certain departments, the whole department is actually surveying students and getting that feedback on a regular basis. For some, it's like, end of year, others it's like mid-year and end of year, and then some it's quarterly. For others, it's like at the end of a unit. To get the feedback, not only on academics, but also just to check in and see how the students are going. So, we're happy that people are actually looking to get that information from the students, and in some cases adjusting what they're doing because it's reflective, and then in other cases we're just kind of taking the temperature on how the students are feeling at that time, if we need to get more support. The UDL strategies continuously being implemented, giving students their, to use their voices, offering different choices of things that they can do. And then I've also, I work with all of the advisors for extracurricular clubs, and we've seen a major increase in students approaching administration to ask if they could implement new clubs. And a lot of them really focus on exposing the rest of the students to cultures, ethnic groups, traditions. And so, I feel like we're kind of moving in the right direction. And, there's a lot of things that we can do to push this work further next year.
Staff attendance?
I think it was on
It was on that first page.
that first page. Yeah.
Nope, I don't think I put it.
You don't?
Oh, I thought I did, maybe it was someone else's.
Yep, you asked me to do it. Yep, that's on me. Hold on.
It's in that
If you don't
chart.
have it-
That chart I sent you.
Readily
Yeah.
available, it's okay.
Gordon sent it to me and then I forgot.
Just send it along, Frank, when you get a chance, please.
Just send it.
Yeah. We're at 95% for both teachers and paraprofessionals.
Okay.
So, work through it.
Yeah,
No,
no,
that's
that's
good.
that's what
Perfect.
everybody else presented.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, yeah, thank you all, appreciate it.
Do you want us to stick around?
That'd be nice to
Oh,
cheer on Steve.
You guys can go out.
Oh, I got to cheer Steve.
Hello, Mr. Pearson.
Hello, everyone. How are we today?
Doing great.
Mrs. Ojanga, and who's still on medical leave. Just-
Before I get started today, I did want to go on the record with just a big thank you I don't know, you might be aware that we were a bit shorthanded at Birchland the last 2.5 months of the school year. So I want to thank our ELPS leadership team. They were a huge help in us keeping us afloat, getting across the end of the year without having to sacrifice a lot of the stuff that makes Birchland special. So Shea Gordon and the high school team, Ann and Gary both spent time in my building helping out so that we could do some things that we continue to do, and the kids got to get the full experience. So thank you to everybody. Thank you, guys.
Ms. Brown Center was there for quite a bit as well.
Yeah. And Ms. Brown too. As a whole leadership team, couldn't have done it without you guys. I was juggling a lot of balls at the end of the year, so thank you. All right, so supporting the whole child is the first goal that I want to talk a little bit about. We can go to the next slide. High school promise brevity, and I will deliver on that because I think our data speaks for itself on most of these, and I'm just going to offer you a little bit of context. If you recall last year, I think we were around 12% that were chronically absent, and that number has decreased drastically here, down to 5.9 or around 6% if you count in the 20% or more. This is just a testament to being relentless and using all the tools that we had at our disposal. Killed entire forests, sending out letters to families, endless meetings with families and caregivers and even doctors, because a lot of our stuff was medically based, that students were missing school, around our incentive programs, messaging to families, whether it be in my weekend updates, signs posted around the school about the importance of attendance, and just a consistent theme with our students talking about being there, being one of the most important things in life and in school especially. So we had a drastic reduction in our absenteeism, which was great. And another big factor of this, I don't want to get into too much now because it's going to come up on our supportive culture slide, was around increasing engagement, giving kids a reason to want to be in school. And it's what we deliver in the classroom on an everyday basis, but I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to that slide. You can see our teacher attendance was below there as well. I think we took a little bit of a hit this year. This was a strange year where if anything could happen, it did happen. I had 6 long-term subs to close out the year, in addition to missing my assistant principal. But we had a lot going on, so I know our teacher attendance is usually a little bit higher than that. Next year looks like it might be an adventure as well. Already got some long-term absences lined up, but I still expect to see that number go up a little bit more next year.
Can I ask a question about what that number means?
Yeah.
So when we talk about attendance is 94%, does that mean teachers were present for 94% on average of the 180 days?
Yes.
So that, okay.
Yeah, it's in Munis you have to almost reverse it because what
Okay.
you have to start with is what accrued time was used,
Okay,
and then look at the days they had available,
Mhm.
and then do the math to come up with this.
and again, just trying to clarify, so
Yeah.
then that means roughly 11 days missed?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, we had several
On
long-term.
average.
Yep, on average.
Actually,
That's a
Skewed our
good
numbers a
number.
bit.
That's a large number.
their school year is
Yes.
184, so when you do
Okay.
the accrued time, because they're contracted for 184, so it would be a little.
It would include those,
Yes,
not just
yeah.
the,
So,
okay.
and paras, they're on 182, so we had to, so you have to look at the contracted days.
Yeah, we also saw a nice dip in, the absenteeism numbers among our Black African American students and our Hispanic, even though some of those numbers are still higher. They're a big reduction from last year. And I attribute that to some of the work we did with the Academic Leadership Association, mentoring some of those students. We had an affinity group going with Maple Shade for a while. A lot of our students were mentors for that, and they enjoyed participating in that. It was a good reason for them to come to school, so we saw a nice reduction in those numbers as well. So we're pretty pleased with the attendance data. It's an ongoing battle. It's one we're going to continue to pursue next year. It'll be a little more difficult without Trish Pereira, who is a diva at this stuff, but we will carry on the fight.
And I don't want to misspeak them because I had said 11 and Gordon said it's a 184, so that would be closer to 8 days. So I just want to make sure
So each teacher was absent 8 days?
Well, that's on average.
On average.
We had some
Some might
teachers
be
that
more,
missed
some might be
More.
less.
They might never
entire
have taken it.
quarters,
Yeah.
maternity, paternity leave,
Yeah.
surgeries, grand jury duty. We had everything come up this year, so. All right, teaching and learning. So it's our next goal here. And when we're looking at the numbers, obviously here, this is from our iReady data, and again, the data speaks for itself. Put it simply, the goal is to increase the green while reducing the red, which we've done quite well from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Our green has grown quite a bit and our red has shrunk. So we were on target there. But when we're looking at the numbers around growth, I believe in ELA we wanted 65% typical growth for our students in reading. We were a little bit short of that this year, for a variety of reasons, but we were within parameters we've set in the past, about what we have been. 60% I think we're right around that number last year as well. So we're similar. This was a year when we did a curriculum review for reading, so we were piloting some different curriculums. We ended up settling on Reading Reconsidered. And I think that was a good learning experience. I know it was for me. I tutored some of our 8th graders who were struggling and their teacher wasn't available after school. And as a former English teacher myself, I learned after my first session with those kids that I couldn't just wing it. I had to get the materials a day ahead, go over and plan it, so it's quite rigorous. So I'm thinking we're going to see the benefits of that in years to come as kids get more accustomed to these high-quality instructional materials. But you can see our numbers are still pretty good, 60% typical growth. Our 7th grade, we got a really dynamic group of teachers there that work really well together. We're seeing our highest numbers. They did meet the goal for their typical growth and their stretch growth. They were 3% off. We were looking for 35%. I think we were at 20 or 33% last year, so we did pretty well in those numbers as well. Little work to do there. I think we're going to see those numbers again tick up as we do some professional development around the new curriculum, as we get more familiar with it and the requirements there. We're going to see our numbers go up. But 150% median score, you can see it's not bad. Our kids are still continuing to make progress in reading, even if they're not making it quite the same level that we want to catch up on MCAS to where we were pre-pandemic. We still got to see those stretch numbers go up, and that's going to be our aim next year.
And Steve, did they take the 8th grade take the iReady after their 4 MCAS tests?
They did, and we also were missing our 8th grade teacher for the entire last quarter.
Well,
so
we
I can't
noticed some
imagine-
score reversals, so I think
Yeah.
a lot of 8th grade scores are not really.
It wasn't ideal.
It wasn't
They do
their
have
best
testing
foot
fatigue.
effort after they took all those MCAS.
Yeah,
Because
they
like
have 4
scores went
rounds.
backwards, which doesn't.
They come back from DC and they do their last round of diagnostics as well. Like I said, one of our 8th grade teachers had been missing the entire 4th quarter, so I'm not sure
Yeah.
we're getting our most valid results there. But the numbers are what they are, and we know we have some room for growth there.
And then the MTSS team, did they then take a look at the 31% who made less than 19% progress towards typical and the 36% who made less than 19% progress towards stretch?
Yeah, there's always been we notice a feast or famine trend. There's not much in the middle. It tends to be a good chunk of our kids make the progress we're looking for, and then there's those that don't. So every year we're looking at what kind of intervention programs we have to try and reach some of these kids. I did not put the slide up there, but our intervention programs are working pretty well. Our kids that are the furthest behind grow the most. They've got the most distance to go as well. But yeah, we do have certain kids that don't seem to make a ton of progress, so every year we're looking at what do we need to do to push those kids. We added in that enrichment block a couple of years ago to give us another way to reach those kids with Tier 1 teachers. So we had a big meeting with my MTSS team and a special committee on enrichment to see what we want to tweak for next year. And I think that our enrichments are working well in spots. We're going to be looking to get a little more consistency because we're going to rely on them a little bit more. We're going to have fewer tiered classes next year, so we're going to need those enrichment classes to serve as an intervention for those kids that are struggling. So we're going to be looking for some more consistency, a lot more visits from Natalie, assuming she's able to travel around the building by that time. And they're observing those rooms more than we do typically and kind of giving those teachers some feedback on what we can do to push kids forward. I've been talking about Heather with some programs we might be able to bring into those enrichments to help push kids, whether that be Lexia or anything else that's on the table, and or maybe even Inspire we could look at. But it is something that we have known. The next slide is, again, our projection for MCAS reading. Again, if this carries out, 57% proficient would be the score that, a nice uptick from the fall when we were projected to be in at 43%. We'll see how those numbers pan out. They were pretty close last year, the projections to what they should be. And we're growing a lot more kids proficient and a lot fewer kids that are not meeting expectations, which is exactly where we want to be.
And do you happen to know what the percent proficient, or the percent meeting or exceeding expectations on MCAS was last year?
Last year, yeah, we were at, I don't want to mix up English and math. I know math we were in the 40s. English, we were in the 50s. I think we were around 54.
Okay,
if I recall
potentially
correctly.
outperforming where you were last year.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Yep, we should be slightly ahead. Again, this is part of that push Felix Science, we're spinning our wheels, we're treading water. If we're going to catch up to where we need to be, we need to have more kids hit their stretch growth. So that's going to be our focus. And we're doing it in areas, we just need to be more consistent with it. All right, math. We had a pretty good year in math, as you're going to see with some of our data here. This is, again, the overall beginning of year versus end of year, and the same story of growing the green while shrinking the red. We did a really nice job there. But when we go to the next slide and you look at our growth, we largely hit our targets here. We were looking for 55% typical growth in math, and we scored, above that. So we hit our typical growth goals. And our stretch goals, we did very well as well. We exceeded our stretch goals as well. So math is on target. We're another year getting more familiar with our IM curriculum. We did a lot of work in department meetings with talking about where our gaps were for vertical alignment, where did our kids struggle, what were we missing in the transition from one grade to the next. But this is also a testament to our program to really clean up how we're selecting kids for our math programs. We wanted to really bear down on that from a couple years ago where it was just a teacher recommendation decided who was going to go into algebra. Now we have an accelerated math program in 6th grade and 7th grade. We have multiple data points tracking back to MCAS performance in 3rd and 4th grade to try and determine, what's going to be the most appropriate math placement for kids. And we want this to go beyond the feather with my cap. I got into algebra. We need kids to develop the foundational skills that are going to help them be successful long term, particularly in high school. So we want them to be with the programming they need, where they're going to find success, they're going to build those skills so that when they get to high school, they can still take honors and AP courses and be prepared to do it. I believe when we first had our kids take the high school algebra final, we had almost 40%, a little over 40% failure rate. This time we had 4 kids out of nearly 60 not pass it. So I think it's working, and we're trying to make this transparent for parents. We sent out letters this year detailing all the data points that we were looking at, considering the math placement, and then what math placement we were recommending them for. We heard back from 5 or fewer parents. So I think that the transparency helps. They know what we're doing this. It's not just as subjective as grades. We're looking at mastery checks. We're looking at iReady data. We're looking at MCAS data historically, and attendance. Attendance is a big piece too, because they move at such a pace in these accelerated courses. If you miss something, you're going to be way behind. So we have, again, a pretty well-defined program. We're going to continue to work with it and fine-tune it based on how the summer goes. Like I said, we've only heard from, I think, 95 parents so far, and they've all been, 4 of them have been 6th grade parents, 1 going into 7th grade. So I think that our data and our transparency is doing us a service there.
It looked like, from when I looked at the state site, it was about 46% last year.
Yeah.
So if this comes into
We'd see a
play,
little uptick
we'll
there
be able to see.
as well. Yep.
He's on the plane now. To be able.
Yeah, we see a slight
I don't know,
uptick
it's like a
here as well.
celebration
Yeah.
bell, like that. Woo, wow, he's celebrating us.
Yeah, we're happy with the MCAS, but as you were saying with the high school stuff, we want to see this success translate into long-term success at the high school. We don't want kids having to repeat algebra, not being able to do the AP and honors courses because they were missing some skills because they were in a rush to get into an accelerated group at an earlier grade when it didn't matter as much as building that strong foundation.
And can I jump in?
Sure.
With the, so the IM curriculum has its regular curriculum, but they also have accelerated
Yep.
that starts in 6th grade. So by 8th grade, that algebra, they'll have everything. And so that's what we're
Yeah, because there were some gaps.
So we
were
have to
noticing.
start in 6th grade, otherwise they're
Yeah, because
missing.
it wasn't there before, but we had the accelerated programs in 7th and 8th, so we were noticing there were some skills they weren't performing so well on, so they spent a lot of their time in their department meeting identifying those so we could do kind of a boot camp before MCAS where we went back and retaught those skills so the kids wouldn't go in, completely blind. But we're hoping to close those gaps completely by using the IM accelerated curriculum as well.
And it's the same when you look at math last year, again, because it's at least somewhat of a metric to compare. It was about 40% were meeting or exceeding expectations on MCAS, and again, now you're looking to have moved almost another.
Yeah, we're
9%
moving in the right
points.
direction. Yeah, we've got to keep that momentum going, so. All right, so moving on to our last one, which is the inclusive and supportive culture. So I put up our results, spring versus fall. And our numbers are pretty consistent, across the board. I'm going to focus on the engagement in a moment, but we spent a lot of time talking about the Birchland community. It's a big part of our advisory program. It's part of what we did with our A-Bar committee this year, getting kids to be responsible members of the community, understanding their role in it, the responsibilities they have to other members of the community, and making sure that we are there to support each other. This year we had a We Are Birchland Day, which was completely focused on community service and being part of that community, where kids were talking about projects, they were learning from the high school about the community service requirement. We were welcoming our new 6th graders in there to get them to be part of our community. So those numbers generally stay pretty high for us because it's a big part of the focus of what we do and trying to create that Birchland family. But the big uptick we saw, you'll see, is an engagement. We knew that our engagement numbers is something we wanted to see increased drastically.
Oh, I see, sorry. They're-
Yeah, sorry,
they're not
I don't
lined
know,
up.
they
Yeah.
weren't
No, it's
represented
okay,
the same when I got the
64 to
screenshot. It went
It's
from
okay.
64 to 86%.
Nice.
So, and a big part of this was our year-long PD focus that we had during our collaboration station was on revisiting what we call the instructional block. So teachers have certain requirements for every instructional block. They're supposed to have a posted goal, mini lessons, student engagement. But we've also had a lot of initiatives going on at the building level and the district level of fantastic instructional techniques from UDL, regulated classroom. We did a lot of co-teaching this year. So we look, how do we weave these things into what we already do this year? So our coaches did a fantastic series all year looking at each element of the instructional block and how can we weave in these 21st century skills, this new PD that we've been having at the district level, to increase the engagement for our kids, to get them more involved in the classroom, to get them excited about their learning. And our teachers appreciated it. It was a good reminder of some of the basics that we needed and gave Natalie and I a good anchor point when we went in for things we were looking for in the classroom and give them feedback on. But teachers took it seriously. We saw a lot of teachers giving exit surveys about how clearly they were communicating their objectives to kids, how engaged the kids felt. They were using that data on a daily basis to inform their instruction. And then overall, you look at that huge uptick in engagement. I think our classes were more dynamic. I think you saw the increase in our attendance. Kids were more excited about what was going on in school. So we're celebrating that success. It's something we want to try and translate into next year as well and see how we can keep that going. We're going to push on with the co-teaching. I think we dipped our toes in those waters this year. It's complicated. We put a lot on our special education liaisons when it comes to the co-teaching. We're going to want to continue that next year, and I think we're going to see those engagement numbers hold steady and increase. Okay. All right, I did promise brevity, so I'm open to questions.
Excellent work on the brevity. Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Pearson, tonight?
No, that just seems to align with what you saw in movement in your data from MOY to EOY as well.
Yep, yeah, we're pretty consistent. Like I said, the engagement thing I think was felt throughout all of our strands and what we're doing. It's a big part of what we do. And also explaining to kids what engagement meant was a big part of that as well. It doesn't mean that we're juggling fire and entertaining you in the classroom, but that you're thinking and learning consistently. You're an active participant. So I think that also, they had a good understanding of that by the end of the year.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson.
Thank you for your presentations tonight.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe to stay for entrepreneurship, is that on there?
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It is on.
Yes.
We'll
yeah.
pull it up next for you if you want.
And actually, do you have any information on the
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ann.
Have
See
a
you,
great
Steve. Yeah,
summer.
thank you.
Take care.
Summer.
Waivers.
Cross country.
cross country and
Field
it's
hockey.
somewhat straightforward. We've done them before, but I didn't know if you had any additional
Okay,
information.
we'll just pull up your one then.
Okay,
Gordon can do the waivers.
okay.
We got faith. Can I take a motion to move up 7.4 to the next order of business, please?
So moved.
Motion made by Sarah,
Second.
second by Antonella. Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That motion carries. William, you there still? Yeah, he's there, 4-0.
Nice. That's awesome.
Okay, we have acceptance,
Yeah.
donation to the ELHS Entrepreneurship Program.
Yeah, so, just to give you a little history here, and this has always actually just blown my mind that Dawn has done this, and I just want to give her a little bit of a shout out and some kudos here. So, Dawn has run the entrepreneurship program at Scotia since the late 90s. From that time, literally until this donation was made, she has funded that program entirely out of pocket. So she fronts the money every year, between $5,000 and $10,000 for the program, and then the program reimburses her at the end. Just because she believed in the program, she believed in what the kids were getting out of it. And time and again, when we see kids going into the business world, they'll tell you like that was a class that inspired them. So, so I just want to give her one, that shout out, and two, a student who graduated from here, who now works for this company, she kept in contact with, and he reached out to her to offer to fund the program. so she wouldn't have to do that anymore. So, so this donation allows that program to now continue to sustain, where, you know, it's the fronting of the money to purchase the products, and then it gets replenished once, you know, the students go out and actively sell. So I think it's great that, it blows my mind what she did in the past, but also it's great that we have a former student giving back to the program because of what he got out of that and what he believes. He's now obviously in sales for this company. So,
That's amazing.
so just so you have that history of what this means, I think it's an awesome thing, both of what she did and also where it's gonna go. So fortunately, we don't get to have Dawn forever, you know, so when that retirement comes, the program will endure.
There is a ELHS entrepreneurship account that's already in existence?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and that's where these funds would go, and so they would prepay, and then they would be reimbursed, and then they do the same thing every year?
Yeah, so how it works is they prepay for any products that they may sell.
Yep.
And then they reimburse the program, and then any profits they make, the students can actually earn profit off of that, and the district will cut. They work it out. It's all on the up and up. So they can actually make profit off of the products at the end of the year. Sometimes kids get a couple $100, and
cool.
You know, they see the fruits of their labors.
Yeah.
So
Money talks.
yeah.
Okay. They generate the ideas for the products, they come up with a marketing strategy, and then they
Solicit
have to...
feedback from students
Right.
to make sure that they're buying something that might, or purchasing something that might be profitable. Then they go through the marketing campaign. They go out and sell. I'm sure you've probably seen them around town selling at different events, and they go to the middle school. They usually do really well at the middle school. Kids are excited to buy it from the high school.
They usually do really well in the superintendent's office.
Yeah. So.
Okay, I take a motion, please, to accept the check for $6,000 from Secure Energy Solutions LLC to be placed into the East Long Meadow High School entrepreneurship account.
Still move.
Motion made by Antonella.
Second.
Did I go too
It's
far?
only
Sarah?
you.
Yeah.
Was it too wordy? What happened?
No, I was like, you're making the motion.
I know. I don't get to do it often. And I still didn't really get to, but thank you.
Right.
Motion made by Antonella, seconded by Sarah. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That motion carries 3-0.
He said he just took off.
Okay, good for him.
But he doesn't know who's connection.
We appreciate his effort.
Did I keep him up?
No,
you,
if he's in the air, that's fine.
I don't think they do.
Okay.
Thank you, Frank. Yeah, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
hanging
Enjoy
in
your
there.
summer if I don't see you.
Same.
too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Page.
Okay, moving back into order, we have the superintendent's summative self-assessment and evidence report.
So it always makes sense to me, since we're doing these end-of-the-year reports, to put this together at this time. I know that we're carrying it over in terms of the evaluation until we get the fall accountability data. But much of the highlights, obviously, you've heard over the last two nights, and some of the nice things are we're hitting our attendance goals. We're actually exceeding, in many cases, our attendance goals. Our growth goals on iReady, we were able to meet and in some cases exceed. It was nice to see the math stretch growth come up. So one of the things that, if you remember, we did at the beginning of the year was, rather than going with sort of the theoretical 80%, we need 80%, obviously that's where we would like to be if you break down how Tier 1 teaching should be achieving results. But we were wondering if we were stretching it out so far that people were always feeling down because we weren't hitting that 80%. Now we're able to actually come back and show them how they've achieved certain things with many of the initiatives that we put in place. So we're excited to be able to do that as we discuss it more as a leadership team, but then bring it back as we're setting goals next year. I won't read all of this to you. I do have the folders set up in the shared Google Drive so that you can see the evidence there, and certainly happy to discuss any or all of this with anyone if you want to discuss it individually.
Okay.
Thanks, Gordon.
Yes, thank you, Nancy. Okay. We have approval of the 8th grade waiver for girls varsity cross country and JV field hockey.
So in your packets, you have a request from Mr. McGee. He's already gotten the support of the middle school and high school principal, and he's looking to put in place again a varsity girls cross country 8th grade waiver. Because currently we do not have the recommended minimum of 10 student athletes returning to field the varsity team, and so we would like to offer the opportunity to 8th graders and hopefully get above that minimum of 10 students. Field hockey, they're hoping to have both a varsity and a JV team, and so the 8th grade waiver would help us field that JV team, and 8th graders would only play on the JV team.
It's going to be a stretch.
Yeah.
Get 7 more players.
Right.
It's
yeah.
worth trying, yeah.
It may be challenging to do that.
It's too bad. The numbers are low again. But,
Can't believe
yeah.
it.
And actually, they've had very good seasons the last few years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Does somebody have a motion, please?
I move to approve the 8th grade waiver for girls varsity cross country and JV field hockey.
Motion made by Antonella.
Second.
Second by Sarah. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. That carries 3-0.
Thank you very much.
And adoption of new ELA curriculum for Bircham Park Middle School.
All right. So for those of you who were here last night, I have here a copy of the DESE process for evaluating, selecting, and implementation. And I also mentioned that the nation's still catching up with this process, so not everything's been reviewed, but we use the Curate rubrics. And so I really wanted to make sure that the ELA curriculum was knowledge-based, like wit and wisdom. In addition to the content and skills, the more background knowledge that kids have, not only does it help them actually comprehend, but it prepares them for the world. There was a great article recently about AI. You can't use AI if you don't have the content knowledge and the questions that you need to ask. So they went through the whole process. They actually started this at the beginning of last year, knowing that this was the year to go through it, look through different things, decided on 2 that they were going to field test a whole unit of each. One was Fish Tank ELA, which has been reviewed, and one was Reading Reconsidered. It was actually created by the Teach Like a Champion folks. And they chose Reading Reconsidered, and I'm very excited because if you look at the curriculum map, they will be reading whole novels, and a lot of them. So in addition to, really close reading different sections and writing and everything else, when they come out of the middle school, I'm thinking now, all of what they're exposed to through wit and wisdom, and then in middle school, we're going to see tremendous growth in the high school, and they'll continue that work with Odell. So I'm happy to answer any questions about Reading Reconsidered. I personally feel really excited about it. I wish my own daughter could have this curriculum. It's very, very rich, and like Mr. Pearson said, it's very rigorous. And so the shift now, like I mentioned last night, was, nationwide we've been teaching kids to where they're at. And so if I'm teaching a 7th grade student who's at a 3rd grade skill level, 3rd grade skills, they're never going to catch up. We're never going to see that typical growth. We're never going to see that stretch growth. So the shift is really teaching kids at that 7th grade level and providing the scaffolding and accommodations, whatever we need to make sure they can be successful. And it is possible. We've seen it in a lot of our classrooms. And so the shift now for teachers is, how do we do that in our own classrooms? Using the technology that we have, using our own skills, co-teaching, the expertise of a special educator, all of the things. And so in addition to kind of learning how to implement this curriculum, the big push is going to be on helping support that shift. And so we'll have, we've always had horizontal alignment at Birchland because it's homegrown, but both teams, like both the 7th grade teachers, both the 8th grade teachers teach the same, but we haven't necessarily had vertical alignment, and we haven't necessarily had that level of rigor that we really need. So.
I appreciate the variety of genre.
That's what I was saying. And
See that.
there's classics
Yeah.
and there's
Contemporary.
newer.
So when they had the parameters that I set for them, they got to choose because you can't possibly do all of these. We're going to do 5 units next year. 5 units next year. We would purchase for 6 units, knowing that hopefully we can actually make that happen the following year. Knowing that when you implement a curriculum the first time, you never get through all of it. But the parameters were different genres to make sure they had a mix of the classical and the contemporary, or historical fiction versus nonfiction, and so they're going to have.
There's diverse
Yes.
Authors and-
Yes.
Yes. So all students are able to see themselves.
Yep.
And also see different perspectives.
Yep.
So,
Which actually was one of the things that Mr. Pearson was connecting to
Yeah.
in terms of engagement.
Yep.
so.
And I appreciate, I know you and I have talked about this document before, but the planning and implementation guide that you provide educators with, I appreciate how clear it is in terms of what expectations are for both things that folks should be doing and things that they should not be doing.
Yeah,
It's
so
really
what
clear
Sarah's talking about is
upfront.
this sheet. We started doing this when we kind of had a restart last year because we said, and having never implemented high-quality instruction material at such a level before, teach with integrity. Unfortunately, that meant a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So when we kind of moved back to fidelity, knowing that we test out the recipe and then we can make those changes. So this has really helped move the needle forward of being crystal clear about what we can and cannot do. I did get some pushback because some folks felt like they weren't being treated as professionals, but when they actually started reading it, one person even said, "Oh, thank you, this is just expectations. It's just clarity." And as Brene Brown says, clarity is kindness.
Well, and it helps provide valid data. If we're not implementing something the way
Correct.
it's meant to be implemented, we can't say it didn't work because we didn't implement it in the way that it was meant to be.
And the changes, the tweaks that people are making are now at a grade level span with the help of a facilitator and making educated decisions rather than, I'm doing this and I'm doing this. They really have to come to consensus and have a reason, and they're all valid reasons. One of which is that the curricular materials always give you more than you could possibly teach. So really helping them to figure out how to prioritize things. But yeah, so I'm really excited about this, and I hope that you approve
So
it.
as you go through it, or the team collectively will develop the pace as you go? Is that?
So what we did this year for the elementary teachers and for the math, so it was K to 8 math, is we gave them a pacing guide with flex days, knowing that, sometimes things happen, assemblies, things like that. So they basically were trying to keep not lockstep, so you might be on lesson 10 and I might be on lesson 8, but at least within a range. And when people started falling out of that range, we had different things in place to help get them back on track, and people were helping each other. I lost my train of thought. So they did not create the pacing guide. However, they were able to give feedback at the end of the year about that and throughout the year in those common planning times. But to try to get consensus on a pacing guide would have been impossible. So we created one and then asked for folks' feedback.
Are there common assessments that they take?
So yeah, and all the materials that we've purchased, there are common assessments. So there's a lot of different ones, and so we've outlined which ones are necessary and which ones can be optional.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I would take a motion for adoption, please.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the new ELA curriculum for Birchland Park Middle School as presented.
Motion made by Antella. Second by Sarah. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed nay. That motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Okay, our final topic this evening is to discuss a time for a school committee reorganization meeting on July 1st. Which is a week from today.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you
We've gone in
have
the
it.
morning in the last few years. I don't know if that's open for everybody.
If it's very early, I can.
Does Pam usually attend?
Not
Pam usually
necessarily.
does.
Oh, she does?
Should I?
7:30.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Beginning of the next year?
Yeah. I mean, it truly is a roles and responsibilities reorg meeting.
Okay. Let me know.
Yeah, 7:30.
So it's 7:30? Sorry.
Does it have to be 7:30? I mean, I'm up at 4 or 5. I'm just saying, does it have to be
It can be
7:30?
earlier if you
No, I mean,
want.
just for these guys, like, they're not always in at 7:30.
I'm okay at 7:30.
You have-
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
usually up at 5.
We'll do 7:30. We'll check with William and Amy, just
And Pam.
for the heck of it, and
Yep.
Pam. And we'll go from there.
7:30, July 1st?
Okay.
Unless you want it in the afternoon.
Sam.
Who
I
is
can do-
checking with those people just to
do
make sure we don't all
recording.
walk away thinking
Are you,
somebody
you're
else
coming
is?
in at 7:30?
I'm coming at 7:30
That's right.
now, yeah.
Oh,
Summer hours.
I will-
summer hours.
Sam is
All
coming in
three?
at 7:30.
Like it.
Loves it.
Does that mean
Yeah.
Pam
Or do you
comes
need
in
me to ask
7:30?
Pam?
No, I do.
Oh.
You can ask Pam.
Pam and Gordon still coming at 8.
Oh, I don't know. No explanation. I just wasn't sure if it, I could remember central office hours changed for
So
the
the
summer.
office is 8 to 3 still?
Gotcha.
But
You want to ask William if
Sam's
you can
coming
do
in 7:30
I
to
will.
2:30.
Perfect.
I'll let him
And,
know.
Awesome.
Actually, I don't know. He's gone all week.
All right.
Amy says 7:30 is good.
Okay.
So we'll just wait for William. Anything else,
William
gonna
should be
check
able
with
to.
him. Pam, we'll check. Heather, you're gonna check with Pam? Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
Okay, if that's it, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss
strategies
for non-union personnel.
strategies part of the non-union personnel.
Yep. Motion made by Sarah, second by Antonella. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The motion carries 3-0. Thank you. We are in exec.
Thank you.
Thank you.